Hi, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Lee Sharon. I'm the pastry chef at a small state university up here in the Adirondack region. And this is Old Tavern Farm. We're a small homestead, small farm, and this channel is all about having fun with food, farm, family, homemaking, and home decor. And I invite you to hang out with us here and maybe learn something new and just have fun and appreciate what we have up here in this region. Today, it is gloomy and dark and rainy and snowy and sleety and all kinds of stuff. That's okay. It's almost Thanksgiving, so we kind of expect that type of weather this time of year, especially up here. So I have some pie pumpkins that my dear friend Becky gave me, who lives just on the other end of our village here. And I am going to start breaking these down to make pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving Day. So I thought I'd bring you guys along, and I'm doing things a little bit different. Most people would just roast these, take the stems off, and roast them whole in the oven. But I am seed saving these. These are heirloom pie pumpkins, and so I would like to have some next year. So, and she has willingly said go for it. So we'll both have pie pumpkins next year. Fingers crossed. You never know with Mother Nature. So anyway, I just thought I would show you how I'm going to start these guys and also save the seeds. And we'll get going with this. So I'm gonna start by getting these, whoops, kind of wibbly wobbly. I'm gonna get started by taking the stems off of here, and I'm gonna open them up and save the seeds and wash them up, and we'll get going. First, I start by positioning my pumpkin in a nice sturdy spot. It's a little bit hard to work the knife down through the skin, but just keep your other hand out of the way at all times, and if you're uncomfortable, consider getting a little cut glove. That's one I use at work. I will try to remember to leave a link in the description box for your own. So, keeping my opposite hand out of the way at all times, or on top of the blade where it can't get me, I'm working my way through the pumpkin, and I'm just going to cut it in half to expose the inside. And I'm going to get my colander so that I can reserve my seeds. I don't want to bake them. I would like to plant them, as I said, so I don't want to roast them off so they aren't viable. So I'm going to separate. I'm going to have two separate colanders, one for eating the seeds after I roast them, and one for drying and saving for next year. So I was starting this half of my pumpkin all wrong. Try to put your flat cut side down so that you have a stable base to cut from. Again, keeping your hand out of the way. We're just going to cut these in half circles and scrape out the seeds, just an initial scrape out just to get them cleaned up. And we're going to make our way through all these pumpkins doing the same thing. And we're just initially getting our seeds out so that we can rinse them off and get the extra pulp out. Next, I'm going to bring my cut rings over to my sink, and using a very small serrated paring knife, I'm just going to scrape out the more stubborn pulp. Again, being careful to keep the opposite hand out of the way of the blade. And then that will give me a few extra last clinging on seeds to rinse off as well. This process takes a little bit of time, but just be patient and enjoy the actual process and get to know your pumpkins. You can use a paring knife, but you can also use a spoon to scrape out the pulp and the extra seeds. It works just as well. Because I use a knife almost every day at work, I tend to just go for a knife instead of a spoon. Next, I'm just going to lightly brush these with a little bit of olive oil just to keep them from drying out too much in the oven. You can also use a pan spray. or any other kind of liquid shelf-stable oil that you like. I'm going to roast these at 350 for about an hour and a half. And your oven might have a different temperature setting than mine, but this batch took me a little over an hour and a half, just until the skins are soft when you press a knife down in them. And the flesh is actually soft enough where you can, again, push a knife or a toothpick down into the flesh. And you're gonna go ahead and let these cool for a little while. Once they've cooled off, just take a knife. I just happen to have a steak knife here. Take a knife or your fingers, either way. The skins should actually peel off pretty easily. Some are more stubborn than others, but just take your time and work through each slice. And if the flesh doesn't come away from the skin very easily, you can always just lay it down, run your knife along the edge until you get everything out that you want. Again, some are more easily separated than others. And don't worry about any browned or golden spots that you come across. This is just going to add flavor. This is simply where the sugars in the pumpkin have caramelized in the heat of the oven, and that's just going to give you extra flavor. So don't toss those away. You won't be able to see them anyway. So once we strip the rind away from the flesh of the pumpkin, we're just simply going to drop it into our food processor. This one happens to be Cuisinart. Little by little, just kind of handfuls. It's kind of a messy process, but it's worth it. And you're just going to let it spin. Okay. Whoops. Quasi. All right, so I'm going to just keep dropping handfuls of the flesh into the hopper. And I scrape my bowl out because I will just put this back in here, and then I will portion it out into quart bags, because you can't actually can pureed pumpkin or pureed squash. It's too thick for the heat of the canner to penetrate to the center where, you know, there could be bacteria. So I'm going to drop a couple links into the description box from the U.S. government site for home canning and the Ball Blue Book. And Ball Canning is a great source for all things science. So anyway, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to portion the stuff out into these like 1 or 2 pound Ziploc bags and store them flat in my freezer. I'll probably use half this for Thursday's pies, and then I'll have some left for Christmas. So I'm just gonna keep on pulsing and keep on making my puree, and I just want to say Happy Thanksgiving. Woo! I'm throwing pumpkin all over the place. It's like a party. I want to say thank you for joining me, and I hope you take your own pie pumpkins. It's easy as pie. It takes a little time, but and it's cold and rainy outside. What else do you have to do? You probably have more to do than I do. I got sewing, horses, you know, it's always something. You guys know me. Take these tops that are left over and put them in your compost bin so you can have good soil for next year. And all the skins can go in the compost bin too. And have yourself a good old pie time. Thanks for visiting. Bye-bye.